What's up, everybody? I'm Tom Fahrenkopf, and in today's episode of Tom Talks Film, I'm going to take a stab at exploring some of the cinematography techniques utilized during the golden age of slasher flicks. To do this, I will be exploring 3 of the most well-known movies from the horror subgenre. What is a slasher flick? Even with the ongoing debate over which convention should be required, here are the 4 I believe are most important. 1. The killer must be human. 2. The killer must use a slashing weapon. 3. The story must contain a group dynamic because number 4, there must be a body count. Now, with an understanding of the slasher subgenre definition, my focus of this project is to explore the cinematography techniques in 3 specific areas: color palettes, lighting design, and the overall mise-en-scène. But before I slice into these techniques, here are the 3 films explored within this project: John Carpenter's Halloween 1978, Sean Cunningham's Friday the 13th 1980, and Wes Craven's A Nightmare on Elm Street 1984, my personal favorite. During the golden age of slasher flicks, which lasted from 1978 to 1984, the use of pastel colors became fairly common. While color theory suggests that pastel colors represent innocence and love, they more likely represent the emotional or psychological turmoil within the characters of these films. For example, in this scene where Laurie makes her first close-up visual contact with Michael Myers, both she and Annie are wearing pastel colors. The only noticeable exception is Laurie's dark green turtleneck, which by layering it underneath her sweater tells us of her inner turmoil. The pastel colors are not only experienced through the character's clothing, but also through the non-diegetic material, as seen here with the Halloween title card and the set design in both Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. The feeling of chaos tied to these colors is highly expressed in these slasher flicks. Another significant color turned upside down is represented by the use of white. Normally drawing connections to cleanliness, safety, and purity, in these films they are more likely to represent hidden dangers, vulnerability, or profound fear. In the final scene of Friday the 13th, Alice reaches a safe haven from the horrors at Camp Crystal Lake. As the lone girl survivor, her white blouse would normally represent a feeling of safety. However, like other slasher flicks of the period, it more accurately describes the imminent dangers lurking nearby. Moving on to the lighting techniques. Utilizing lighting styles similar to, if not inspired by, German expressionism and film noirs, slasher flick conventions include back or silhouette lighting, the use of practicals, and lighting with a cooler white color. Back or silhouette lighting is the method whereby the cinematographer places one or more key lights behind their subject and uses minimal or no fill light on the front. The resulting effect is a darkened outline of the actor and is intended to conceal information from the audience. With a slightly different setup, on Friday the 13th, filmmakers placed the large light source high above the actors and to the left out of the camera's view. This light placement still achieves a strong effect by outlining the face, leaving much in shadow. In this way, filmmakers were still able to accomplish the jarring backlit actors common to the subgenre. The lighting goes very cold. On the spectrum of white light, the color temperatures range from warm, a yellowish white light, to cool, white light with more of a bluish color. Many horror films rely almost exclusively on the cooler temperature lighting, but as we can see here, slasher flicks took it to a much darker level. Practical lighting is when an object contained within the shot suggests itself as a functional source of light. In the upper left GIF, as Michael Myers comes through the door, the only light source for the camera is the hanging closet light. Similarly, in the scene from Friday the 13th, Mrs. Voorhees stands nearby the Jeep so its headlights will illuminate the area just enough for the camera. Important to note that this image also represents continuity lighting. Even though the shot contains a practical light source, it is clear there is additional lighting off to the left out of the camera's view. These out-of-view lighting sources provide ample light to Mrs. Voorhees' hair and face, but the use of practicals here suggests it is coming from the headlights. Now let's move on to the mise-en-scène. This idea represents everything contained within the frame of the camera lens. Being responsible for every image passing through the lens and recorded, cinematographers usually have motivation for their shot arrangement. Slasher flicks of this era tended to lean towards chaotic scenes as another descriptor of the character's psychological turmoil. A person's home is the quintessential idea symbolizing a safe space. In both Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street, the mise-en-scène included the violation of this idea by shooting within the character's home. Comparatively, Friday the 13th places their characters at Camp Crystal Lake, an isolated location where no one can hear them scream. In this extraordinary shot, Hadkin arranges numerous pieces of equipment to perfect this mise-en-scène. Nancy is shown fast asleep in her bed, but as she continues to sleep, the audience starts to see Freddy Krueger push through what they think is a normal wall. As Freddy's features become more defined, it is the uplighting that highlights the finer details. For many people, the sight of blood, even on the big screen, can make them squeamish. Filmmakers understand this. On the surface, the use of blood is symbolic of a character's death. However, their overactive vasovagal response will make some people uncomfortable, and while this physical reaction is a desired effect, it is possible the use of blood has a deeper meaning. Some of these slasher flicks take the amount of blood on screen to an uncomfortable level and present a humanly impossible amount. In one way, this amount of blood represents the audience's requirement in contemplating the destruction of the human body. As Kevin Masters points out, in Nightmare on Elm Street, this abstraction expresses the tension between family and community. Thank you for joining me in today's episode of Tom Talks Film and the exploration of the cinematography techniques utilized during the golden age of slasher flicks, 1978 to 1984. Citations for this project are listed here and in the video description below. Until next time, get out there and make something scary.